Welcome to Bodacious Estate Conversations, the podcast where we skip the polite small talk and get straight to the real story about handling a loved one's property. From unexpected challenges to the messy emotions nobody warns you about, I bring you unfiltered stories, practical advice, and clever shortcuts from people who've been there and the professionals who know the way. If you want honest answers, bold strategies, and the confidence to take control, you're in the right place. Here is your host, Casey King.
Welcome to the very first episode of Bodacious Estate Conversations. Normally, I would be the one asking questions to our guests, but on this episode, we are going to flip the script. And today, my producer, Nick, is going to be the one asking those questions. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you, Casey. I always enjoy being the one who asks questions because I get to learn quite a bit. So now let's start with first, what is the name of your podcast and what is it going to be about?
Bodacious Estate Conversations is going to be about handling an estate and buttoning everything up. So a lot of times when people are transitioning their loved ones into assisted living, or sadly they passed away, you do have their estate that needs to be handled. And unfortunately, it's not knowledge that everybody knows how to do. So it can be very overwhelming. So this podcast is to help guide you through that process.
Yeah, I mean, this is such an interesting scenario that people don't really think about. And when you and I met for the first time and you explained it to me, I found it fascinating how you discovered this. So tell us, because the way you came into this business is the perfect way to explain the need for such a, if you like, a knowledge base to handle with situations. So tell us about that quickly, and then tell us the needs for in those scenarios.
Absolutely. So I kind of found it by accident. I had two clients. So I have my real estate license, and I was helping a family. It was two families back to back. The first one, mom was living by herself and she fell down, like literally fell down, couldn't get back up. And it was a whole day that she was on the ground until the family finally found her. And they were like, you can't live on your own anymore. We're putting you into assisted living. They didn't, they just didn't want her by herself for safety reasons. So they came to me to help because they lived out of state and obviously needed to sell the house, but the house was filled with stuff. The only thing she was taking with her was going to be a recliner, a television, and some clothing. But everything else, I mean, it was 45 years worth of belongings in that house. So what do you do when you live out of state? How do you clean that out? So I took that project on for them. I wanted it to be as much of a service as I could be. So I tried to donate as much as possible back to the community, anything that's reusable. There's a lot of safe housing where those women are transitioning from abusive relationships to live on their own, where they need furniture and clothing and kitchenware items. Anything that's not reusable, my team will dispose of, and any repairs that come up, my team will handle to make it as seamless as possible for the family. So that was the first family. And then less than a month later, it was a very similar situation where the adult child was handling his son. His dad had passed away, and he had to, same thing, take care of the house. He lived out of state, didn't know how to or where to go with all of the stuff. So my team came in and did the same thing. And it was then that I realized there is no service that really offers, a seamless transition, like a hassle-free way to sell the house. Most real estate agents, the good ones anyway, will come through and tell you, you have to clean it out and you should probably paint it a neutral color and you should probably make these needed repairs, but they're not actually going to do that for you. So that's where Bodacious Properties came in.
Yeah, well, I mean, fascinating. I mean, I have to take my hat off to you. Like being an entrepreneurial mind, it really goes to work here, and it just fell on your head somewhat. So it's great. So tell me the kind of guests you intend to have on the show.
Yeah. So I want to reach out to professionals in the field that are handling, that are working with these clients and can guide them through. So that could be attorneys, it could be estate planning, it could be transitional living, like going in movers, going into assistant living houses, and even grief centers to help with the loss. I feel like that's very important. So, kind of all of the professionals that would have a space in that realm. I think I even have a funeral director on the guest list to talk about that. So for a lot of these folks, it's the first time that they've been appointed an executor or the power of attorney, and you don't know what to do. You don't know what you don't know. So this whole podcast is really based on giving some guidance and helping navigate that.
Unfortunately, as you get older, you tend to lose your parents or people in the family, and you experience what's going on. And when something like that happens, or you ultimately put the person in assisted living, so whatever is left over, people are busy professionals. They're living, they have their kids, their lives. They don't have time to deal with it, and so it gets neglected, right? And the legal process is not necessarily quick. So things become abandoned. And of course, a home that has nobody living in it, from plumbing to roof to unit, right? It just starts to deteriorate. And this is a real need, and also a need that nobody has the time or the patience to spend too much time on. So, and here you are, you're coming in as, okay, don't worry, take care of it all and have it ready. And of course, in order to sell the property, the real estate people will demand, no, you have to do this. Otherwise, you're going to, of course, it's the value, right? It depreciates. Yeah, great concept, frankly. And I'm sure it's appreciated because it's not something people have the time or the patience. Give us a sense of the kind of topics that you intend to have on the show.
So for me, I really like what's the biggest problem that people have, right? Something that would be a great takeaway for folks to tune in and listen to. So it's funny. I met with an attorney and I asked her that very question. So out of all of the folks that come to you, that are handling an estate, what's the biggest problem that you have, that you see? And her immediate answer, which was a little tongue in cheek, but also a little serious, was the sibling. It's always the sibling. So
Um,
people don't realize, like, when somebody is living, they might, if I had a mother, she was talking to me, she would tell me, like, hey, I really want my jewelry to go to so and so. But then when she's talking to my brother, especially if there's dementia involved, she doesn't remember what she told me. So now when she's no longer with us, if it's not written down, it becomes a dispute between the siblings. So being able to navigate that and going through the grieving process. People don't realize that this is actually a chemical in your brain, and it's like it's not one size fits all. It's a real thing that we have to go through, and it doesn't. A lot of people try to stay busy, like, oh, well, if I just keep myself busy, I won't think about it, and I'll distract myself enough where I won't have those feelings. But it really is something that you have to go through. So just putting a knowledge base on that. And then also, obviously, like the actual real estate piece of it, what you talked about, having a vacant home. A lot of people don't realize that with a vacant home, you're not keeping it at the same temperature you typically would if somebody was living there. So you have an issue with possible pipes bursting in the wintertime. Another issue is running water. So another thing that people don't typically realize until you have to until you have to address it is in the drain pipes you have a P trap, which is to accumulate water. Eventually, without running water, that water will evaporate, and without that water in that P trap, the sewage gases will seep up out of the pipes. And it's an unpleasant odor that will fill a home. And a lot of times these homes are locked up, right? So the windows are closed, the doors are shut, and with those gases emitting, if it's any length of time, it's going to be very unpleasant and hard to get rid of.
yeah. I mean, that's it, right? It's the valuation. So suddenly the value of the property goes down, and now you are on a slippery slope, because the longer you wait, the more time and money you have to spend in order to bring it back to a saleable state, and it just doesn't. So it's best to have, and there really is no playbook for this kind of stuff, right? So what happens? And also, even if there was, it's not the time to think about those. So something like this is so essential. So I mean, we kind of touched it, but someone tuning into the show, being a viewer or a follower or subscriber to your podcast, what are some key benefits to take away and then apply, hopefully, in never to experience, but at some point they may, the kind of situation?
Sure. I think just having the general guidance of what to do, where to go, what resources are available here in our community. There are, just from being in this field, I've learned of so many free services that are available that I didn't realize. So just having a platform to be able to go to and help give guidance and support, I think that would be the key takeaway.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, this is so free. These days, there are a lot of things that we don't even know. There are apps and portals or anything like that where you can go, and actually they offer tools so that you can do things, and also access to resources specific to your area. So I'm assuming, you being in this space now, you have a large network of people who become part of the solution, right?
Absolutely.
So it's I'm sure that they'll bring different perspectives. So your guests, different perspectives for different scenarios, will be very useful. So I have a bit of a philosophical question for you. Um, why are you doing this podcast? Because it takes time and resources. So here you are, and you are actually dedicated. What is the purpose?
So, for my client base, I feel like I get the same questions over and over again. So, I thought putting a platform out there where the information is just available. If I'm getting the same questions over and over again from different clients that I'm getting, I feel like everybody has these questions. So, if I could get it out there and get the information available to everybody's fingertips, and just get the knowledge. So that, I mean, not that I don't mind being asked. I'm happy to be of service to everybody, but I would feel better if the information was out there for people and they didn't feel like they had to go at it alone and that they were in the dark. There is a community here, and we are here to help you.
Yeah. And what is your area of operation, location wise?
Great question. So I'm in South Central Pennsylvania. I service all of York, Adams, and Cumberland County.
So, really, at the end of the day, I mean, obviously, the knowledge applies to anybody, right? So, it doesn't matter, unfortunately, when grief hits you, there is no discriminating. But as far as your immediate help, that's available in your area.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And perhaps you will attract others who are interested in partnering up with you and others like that. So that's also, I can think of another way to leverage, right?
Yeah, I do have partners all across the nation. So if somebody from California wanted to reach out to me, just because they came across this podcast, I could definitely find somebody to help them in their local area.
Oh, great. So you are almost a network that can help people. That's great. So Um, great. This is the first time I heard from you. I thought, wow, what an incredible discovery, because you don't think about these things. So it's great. So tell me a little bit about now you. So I understand your podcast and your service and podcast is based on sharing the knowledge. I want to know also about you and then introduce you to the world, so to speak. So, who is Casey King? And I'm not necessarily interested in your resume so much, but what drives you? Start from the beginning, where you grew up, and and then work your way up to see what I want to know is, look back at the time you were growing up as a little girl. Can you remember the first thing that you did that resembles what you do today?
Well, so it's funny. My mother was a single mother with three children, obviously, me, myself being one of them. And we lived in an apartment complex. And I'm not sure what the frequency was. I want to say it was an annual basis. There was an inspector that came in to just check the property. And I remember, little kids, they tell their parents what they want to be. It's a firefighter or a policeman or I don't know. I remember telling my mother that wouldn't it be cool if you were a home inspector and you could go around and see like how people arrange their furniture and like what colors they were painting their walls. And she was a little taken back by that. She was like, a home inspector? You don't want to be a home inspector. I was like, I think that would be fun. But hindsight looking back, I really wanted to be an interior designer. Like that was just fascinating to me, how people decorated their homes and how they decided to lay out their furniture. So I think that was probably my first memory of being like wanting to be in the real estate space.
How old were you?
Oh my goodness, I was probably 6 or 7 at that time.
So 6, 7 years old, and you're thinking about being a home inspector for purposes of figuring out how people decorate their apartment.
Yep.
And was there someone in the family who was into decorating?
Not specifically. I do have a lot of entrepreneurs in my family. My father was a self-employed drywall hanger, so he was in the real estate space building houses. I have an uncle that was in the tree business, so he would take trees down and do a little bit of landscaping. So he was more on the outside, the exterior of the home, but nobody that did the interior. As far as like the finishes. Yeah, that was the first for me.
So what do you think influenced your interest?
When I was in my early 20s, HGTV and TLC, those networks started to become very popular with their decorating shows. And my aunt and I, and actually my grandmother, was the three of us, decided that we were going to start an LLC to flip homes. Just watching these shows on TV, you think, well, I can do that. At that time, though, none of us really knew a whole lot about real estate. Uh, my father was a builder. My aunt's husband, dabbled in some construction, but we didn't really, that was about it, right? We didn't have a whole knowledge base about real estate. So we created an LLC with the thought that we were going to flip houses. It didn't go anywhere because as we started to get into it, like it just became overwhelming. So it was one of those things like, I don't know what to do. So you do nothing. And yeah. So I like to say I grew up in the world of manufacturing in South Central Pennsylvania. We have a lot of manufacturing, and that's what I did since the time I was 18 until I left the world of manufacturing to jump into real estate full time. But it was 2022. No, it was 2021 when I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki and decided, okay, this is how I'm going to fund my retirement. I'm going to get a rental portfolio, and being a planner by design, I decided that I was going to do some fix and flips first to get those large amount of proceeds to use as a down payment to start my rental portfolio. And very similar. I jumped in with both feet. I got my first deal under contract, and it went sideways real quick. And luckily, nothing terrible happened. I was able to back out of the deal and get my deposit back. But I did the negative mindset, right? The spiral. Who do I think I am? I can't believe I don't know anything about real estate. What am I trying to do? And then I read a book that T. Harv Eker wrote where he explained you shouldn't start a business without ever working in the business, right? Like you wouldn't open up a restaurant without ever working in a restaurant. You should know what it's supposed to look like first. So that's when I decided to get my real estate license. And I call that my retail work. So I help buyers and sellers buy and sell homes. And I did that. I say full time while working full time. So I had two full time jobs. I gave up all of my nights and all of my weekends. And my first year, my broker told me, like, you're not going to hit $1 million worth of sales. Don't worry about it. Like, you're just getting into it. You're just learning. Like, your first year, the whole purpose is just to understand how this works. Okay. So while working my full-time corporate job in continuous improvement, I also hit $4.5 million worth of sales in real estate. So I thought, well, okay, I can do this. I can support myself. So that's when I decided to quit my corporate job and pursue real estate full-time.
Wow, what a story! So, and this is like one of those Legos. You know, you have so many different pieces like came together. So let's start with first of all your dad and your uncle or your aunt. You said that was in somewhat real estate.
Yeah. So my aunt and I wanted to flip houses together. That didn't come to fruition. It was just a dream that we had.
But growing up as a kid, so your father was hanging drywalls, and then who was it that was in landscape?
Yeah, I have an uncle that was he's in the tree business. So growing up as a very young child, I remember going to the job site with my dad, and my job, free labor, child labor, was to pick up the scrap pieces and throw them in the dumpster. So I was just always hustling from a very young age, picking up those scrap pieces and throwing them in a dumpster.
So what I'm hearing really is two seeds were planted at those years. One is obviously that hustle and bustle, hard work, and the other is real estate, being around real estate, being around property, right? So that kind of became your natural habitat. Would that be right?
I think so. Right? Like, as a human, we need three things to survive. Shelter being one of them. So it's a commodity that's never going to go out of style. Everybody needs a place to live.
Yeah. And then I heard you also say being a planner. So where did that come from? How did you get to be a planner?
That came from my manufacturing side. So I was a production planner and buyer. So my job was to look at the forecast of demand. So what customers were purchasing for our product and what the demand was showing was coming up based off of forecasts. And I would schedule production based off of that, what our needs are going to be, and then procure all of the material that goes into producing that. So that has just been instilled into me. What's coming up, what are the needs going to be, and let's plan for that.
And what brought you into manufacturing?
Well, when I was 18, I needed what I thought was going to be a real job, right? So I did a lot of retail work in my teen years, but my first adult job, I went into a cake factory, and I worked in a cake factory at the age of 18. And from there, I went into warehousing, and then so the Arm & Hammer company, it's actually called Church & Dwight, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say their name or not. But anyway, I went into a liquid laundry detergent plant that also produced cat litter and gummy vitamins all under the same roof. And they were the East Coast distribution center for all of their products, which included Trojan condoms, first response pregnancy tests, all of those brands that I'm not 100% sure if I should be saying, but but yeah. And then that is actually where I met my husband. We worked really, really well together and became best friends. And then after a while, we started dating, and I left there because of that relationship that was building to go work at another facility in continuous improvement. And that facility assembled military vehicles. So I was the planner for them, and then rolled into their continuous improvement and data analytics person. So I would look at all of the trends for the numbers, what their output is, what the man hours were, and I would decide, okay, this is where we are today, looking at those numbers, but this is where we want to be tomorrow. So how do we bridge that gap? And I'd have to come up with, not just me, but me and my team would come up with, what that scenarios look like and what had to be put into place and what the time frame would be to get us to where we want it to go.
Well, that's serious amount of work, a lot of numbers and planning. So I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, okay, so I heard you describe, growing up as a kid, being entrepreneurial, real estate oriented stuff. And then I now know, obviously, where you are. So in between, it's like, you went through this training to do what you're doing today. And I'm thinking, wouldn't it be interesting for you to know this ahead of time? Like, that's where I'm going to end up anyway. But right now, this is what I had to do. But what was it like, going through this? Was it like just pursuit of a job, or did you feel this was temporary anyway? You knew what you were going to do. And what was that like in between?
I did not know what I was going to do. So I started out just wanting an adult position. I did believe that was temporary. I didn't think that I was going to be there forever. And then it was just a matter of getting to the next level. So I started out as, the grunt worker. What's the next level up? Oh, it's a lead. Okay. How do I become a lead and get to that level? What's the next level up once I'm a lead? Oh, it's a supervisor. Okay. How do I get to that level? What's the next level up? Oh, it's a manager. And just constantly working my way up. But I didn't, other than the short sight, right? It's like runners when they're running and they're so exhausted. They didn't get their second wind yet. We just got to get to the next light post. That's it. Just get to the next light post. I think that was my thought process when I was a W-2 employee.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they say about the military training, especially those SEALs. They go through that training and then, they ask, how do you get through it? So one day at a time. Don't think about, what's going to happen. How long am I? Just tomorrow. Just get through tomorrow. That's enough. So that looks like the case for you. But I'm seeing that, you're back to where you were as a little kid. And did you give it any thought that this is what it was, that in terms of your main interest, it's rooted in your childhood?
It's so interesting. I do believe that the universe gives us opportunities, and sometimes we don't take them. The first time they're given to us, it'll come back around and the opportunity will present itself again. I truly believe that because looking back throughout my life, that is what happened when my aunt and my grandmother and I decided to create the LLC to flip houses. Like, that was opportunity number one. That we didn't pursue. And now reading the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it kind of shined the light on it again. Okay, this is the right direction. This is where I'm supposed to go. It's just a matter of how do I get there? And then overcoming the fear, quitting a W-2 job with a consistent paycheck to pursue being an entrepreneur that does not have a consistent paycheck is a very scary thing, terrifying, actually. So not only having the knowledge of how to do it, but then getting over that fear and sucking it up and just doing it. That's hard.
And also as a woman, don't forget, as a woman, you're getting into this entrepreneurial space, which frankly, there are a lot of ladies in residential real estate, but not many in commercial real estate. And equally, your space, I don't even know that your space existed before. And now you are in it as a woman and as an entrepreneur. That's more than courage. That's a lot of guts, frankly. So it's I'm sure it was challenging. And it every day, by the way, it doesn't go away, right?
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't go away. I still, to this day, have contractors that will come through and noticeably treat me different versus my male colleagues. And it can be frustrating, but I feel like women in this space, and not just this space, but other spaces that are male dominant, we just have a thicker skin because of it, and we know how to handle ourselves and get the job done.
Yeah. I mean, it's men are fairly simple in terms of their approach. It's a black and white situation and mission oriented. Women are multidimensional. You think about all kinds of different aspects of it. So it's a great thing. So have you ever had the conversation with your uncle and aunt about the impact of not forming the LLC, and look where it got you?
Yeah, not necessarily of the impact of not doing it back then, but I had have conversations, recent conversations about bringing them on to my current team and working, as a family again. So that same aunt is now a property manager for commercial properties. So she, deals with those types of problems. I need to find a contractor to do X, Y, and Z. So she's really great with problem solving. And my uncle has a very large network in the area since he's been in the. She was I don't as old as I am. He's been in the business for over 40 years and has a great network. So he would be a great ally to be into my business today to just help out as my project manager.
Uh, have you had the conversation? I mean, any conversation about your experience as a little girl made you with seeing your uncle with the landscape uh, work and your dad with the whole drywall business, that kind of it got you to become familiar with the space and that gave you the comfort zone?
You know what's funny? I don't know about familiar with this space, but one thing that I was a huge takeaway from observing my father while I was on the job site. Every single person that came on the job site, whether it didn't matter who it was, if it was a finisher, if it was the project manager, if it was the owner of the building, it didn't matter. Anybody that walked on the job site, he would stop what he was doing, put out his right hand and shake his hand and say, Bill Horan, nice to meet you, every single time. And that was such a huge takeaway for me. So when I got into the business world, so being in manufacturing and warehousing, I did the exact same thing. I mean, it was just instilled in me. That's what you do when you see somebody that you've never met before. You put your hand out and you introduce yourself. My name was Horan back then, Casey Horan. It's nice to meet you. What do you do? And I think that has just been huge, especially in today's world when you see younger folks. They don't know how to talk to people. They don't know how to make eye contact. They don't know how to shake hands. I think that really just broke me out of my shell to be able to give me the courage, I guess, to go up to complete strangers and just introduce myself.
So my question is your dad still around?
He is. Yes, he's retired now.
Uh, have you ever told him?
Yes, several times.
What was his response?
He laughs. There was actually a story. My best friend, when I was working for a local manufacturing facility, the CEO came to visit our site, and there was a big luncheon, and they had round tables set up, several different round tables, and all of the employees were invited to come. And when I walked past his table, her and I both were like going to pick a table at the end of the hall to sit down and eat our lunch. But when I walked past his table, there was one seat open. So I just immediately sat down, and I didn't think anything about it at the time until after lunch was over and I met back up with my girlfriend. And she was like, I can't believe you sat down right next to the CEO. Like, she was just flabbergasted. She's like, I thought we were going to sit together. I turned around and you weren't there. I was like, where'd she go? And here you're sitting right next to the CEO. And I was like, I don't know, like, it didn't faze me at all because I think people are just people. But I realized at that point that other people like kind of idolize folks with higher titles. And I don't know, it just wasn't a thing for me. And when I told my dad that, because I do attribute that to his teaching me to introduce yourself to anybody, he just laughed. Yeah, he thought it was good.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? They don't, because it comes naturally to them. They don't think about it. And most important, they don't think about the impact of it. So, and it's a great thing actually for you to look back and say, oh, this is what impacted what I do today and who I am and how I do things. So, and I would say that you are very lucky to have told your dad that this is what, because I talked to several people and I asked them, same question, it comes back to somebody influencing them in a certain way. And I asked them, so have you ever told him or her? And they said, well, he knew or she knew. So that's not the question. They don't get to do it because the person doesn't, unfortunately, survive or whatever. So in your case, I'd say it's a huge accomplishment and, frankly, the quality that you were able to express. So I'm sure he's proud.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm sure. I mean, anybody. I mean, look at you. I mean, you jumped into the business world. You're making it, and most important, it's not like you've got a grocery store. This is like you created a space for yourself for a need that, frankly, helps a lot of people. It's not just business. So I'm sure he is. So tell us again the name of your podcast, how people can find it, where it's available, and also share your contact information. How can people reach you?
Sure. So the name of the podcast is Bodacious Estate Conversations. My name is Casey King. You can reach me at 717-345-3477 or Casey.King, King, at BodaciousProperties.com. As far as reaching the podcast, I don't really know what platforms it's going to be on. Whatever platform you prefer to listen to podcasts on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all the platforms from iTunes to Spotify to you name it, it will be there. And also you'll have your YouTube channel, of course. So you'll have people have video as well. Great. Thank you, Casey. I tell you, I'm always fascinated. It's a very interesting space, and your success is very inspiring, and especially women out there. So thank you for the opportunity to learn more about it.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you.
Bodacious Estate Conversations isn't just chatter. It's about learning, taking action, and finding solutions that actually work. If today's episode resonated, share your thoughts, subscribe, leave a review, and pass it along to someone who could use a hand. More stories, smart strategies, and practical guidance are coming in the next episode. Don't miss it.